Hey, it's time for the Twice Removed podcast with Linda and Gina, where we talk about all things genealogy, including making connections with long-lost relatives while snooping in on our ancestors. Hey, it's good to know where you come from. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Twice Removed podcast. I'm Gina along with Linda.
Hello.
And today's topic is, tell them, Linda.
It's just a little terminology when you're researching your genealogy. It's nice to know what they're talking about.
Isn't it? Because I'll tell you what, there's some words that I be tripping on. So it's hard. It's very, some of them are very difficult. So let's start with the word genealogy itself.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's good to know that one if you're starting to
right.
Getting into genealogy.
Right. So according to Merriam-Webster, genealogy simply means the line of ancestors from whom a person is descended. So we're all going to use that word. We all have used that word. We all do use that word. That's what this podcast is about. It's genealogy. So it's about your ancestors. So if we want to use it in a sentence and be good English students, I am studying the genealogy of my Italian ancestors.
That's correct.
There we go. Okay, Linda. Hit it with the next one. That was the easy one. Now we're getting harder.
Genome.
Genome. That's not me.
Genome. Genome.
Genome. Everyone knows me.
People do know you.
Yeah. So what is this one?
It's a haploid set of chromosomes with the genes they contain.
So use that in a sentence for me so I can understand it better.
A genome holds an organism's complete set of instructions. Mine must say, I don't need to sleep longer than 5:30 a.m.
Okay. So that's all of your DNA instructions about.
And I'm glad I said organism.
Is it so? Basically, that tells you your oh God, what's the word?
Blueprint instructions.
Yeah. Your instructions of how you tick, how your clock works there.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
Yeah. So
okay. So that's genome. So the next word, patronymic, is that what we're saying?
That's what it is. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so our next word is patronymic, and it's a name derived from that of the father or a paternal ancestor, usually by the addition of an affix. If I was Swedish around 1860 and my father's name was Sven, my last name would have been Sven's daughter. Dotter, and my brother's last name would have been Svensson. How
freaking ridiculous is that?
So everybody whose name is Sven in Swedish, which is probably 85% of the population, is either Sven's daughter or Sven's son.
Well, back in the day, you don't see very many people still using the daughter part. I mean,
do you have Sven's sister and Sven's dog?
No.
Okay. It's just
Sven's sister would have had the last name of
Sven.
The father. She would have had a different last name from Sven.
That, it's so layman and it's
very village.
It must be like small town village or something because it's so simplistic. There it is. It's so simplistic. And the way it goes, I bet it was just confusing as heck to go into these little towns and say, I want to see Sven's daughter, and 35 women come out of the hut,
Well, she would have had her own first name.
So her last name would be Sven's daughter.
Right.
So like Ingrid Sven's daughter.
Right. Ingrid, okay. Sven's daughter. As opposed to, Olson, Ol's daughter. Ol's daughter. Ol is a first name too. Olaf, Olaf's son, Olaf's daughter. Yeah.
So like four Olaf's sons and Olaf's
my great grandfather was Anders.
Okay.
And hence my last name. And then they stopped the patronymic naming, thank God. So Yeah.
So you would have been Linda Anderson's daughter?
No. I am Linda Anderson, so it's kind of hard to be my own daughter. But then again, it's these small villages. I'm my own cousin.
There you go.
No, it would have been my father's first name, which is hard to say what he would have gone by. I think he would have gone by Henry. So, even though that wasn't his legal first name when he was born. But if we would have stayed in Norway or Sweden, Norway did this too, so did Denmark. But, that spelled a little differently. Because EN is the Norwegian way and SSON is the Swedish way.
Wow.
But yeah, so, because they both mean son, and daughter is with an A or an O, depending on which country. However, they ended that 1900-ish for all of the Scandinavian countries that were doing this. Thank goodness.
I wonder who said, "Hey, let's stop this. This is nonsense. Let's not do this."
Somebody with intelligence, or somebody who was a bookkeeper, and it's like, oh, come on, you guys, you got to stop this. Maybe it's
Sven's bookkeeper. There you go.
It could have been Sven's bookkeeper. I would have been Sven's bookkeeper.
You would have been
past life,
exactly.
And I would have been ripping. Come on, really, How can we tell you're a family unit if everybody in the family has a last name except for the parents? They have the same name.
From a genealogical standpoint, it's got to be tougher than snot to try to figure this stuff out, right?
It depends on where you make your snot exactly, because if you do it over a forest,
if people are coming up with the same name, there's got to be more than one Sven who lived there in the village.
It was still confusing, but they would still know each other, and then they would say maybe
as far as records go.
Yeah, the records. Well, they were kept in the churches, and Catholic Church, Lutheran Church. Don't know if there was necessarily any other kind of religions in a small village like that, but they would have kept pretty good records. But that's probably one of the reasons why there are so many Scandinavians that are doing the DNA test. And every time I go on there, it's like, oh, great, more Norwegians. There's so many more.
The things.
Well, you can't find each other if you don't have the same last names. I mean, the last 125 years or so, it's been okay. But anything before that, you would have to go in through like a great-grandparent to find out what the last names were, And if they're not around anymore, then you need to go with DNA. And if at least somebody had a relative, they could figure it out. And then, thank goodness for the records. But I'm glad it stopped with my grandfather. He didn't do it. He didn't. He didn't say that my father was going to be August's son, because that would have been it.
August's
son. Yeah.
It also had to be probably a very big pride thing too, because it's kind of like a tag. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
like a big old, name tag right there.
I had an illegitimate. They would have been my great grand uncle or aunt. I don't remember. I think they might have actually been two illegitimate kids that were through my great grandfather, and he didn't marry those women, and they actually took their mother's last name, but with her first name and daughter or son. Okay. And I've seen that before too, just because they wanted to take their mother's because it was easier. Like if your mother's name is Olga and your father's name
Olga
is
son and Olga daughter.
Old son, old's daughter, or they would drop the GA sometimes. But yeah, it's crazy. And yeah, the best way to cut through that is either, if you don't have good records, at least do DNA testing so that you can figure out where everybody's from. And
that's true.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on here so you get to take this next one.
Okay, according to genome.gov, mitochondrial DNA, also known as mtDNA, is an extranuclear double-stranded DNA found exclusively in mitochondria and is maternally inherited.
So you have a V haplogroup, and I have an H, right? So
yours is an H?
Yeah, it's a H2HA, something like that.
There's like yours are if you have 2 letters in it, then it's
so
like
I win a prize.
Yeah. Yeah, you win a prize. Hey.
Hey. Now, do we know what the difference between the H2A2 and the V is? Because that would be okay. That's
different directions coming from the same basic place. So for your mother, it's the Italian line, right? Because your mother's mother. No.
Oh, no. It's mother. Yeah.
Mother
so
from mother to mother. Your mother was your grandmother was Italian. So it's that line. So when your R, maybe, I don't know what that looks like on yours, but maybe your R went more towards Italy and mine went northish.
Mine looks all like yours, except my H is right on top of the R at the end. And your V goes the other way.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. Yeah, see, because mine goes over in the direction of Germany or the direction of Scandinavia, but through, I think, maybe Eastern something. But I was able to find out what my father's maternal haplogroup was because I have a third cousin who is descended from women. So my grandmother would have had the same mtDNA as this third cousin. So my father would have gotten it. And if he would have been female, then I would have had his. Or if I would have been male, I would have had his Y. But, that doesn't work.
Can I ask the stupid question of this thing? At the bottom of mine and yours right there, see it says 1 in 110?
Mm-hmm.
Share your group. Mm-hmm. And mine is 1 in 580. So does that mean every 580 first one's related to me, though? It
of
says
the customers. Of the customers.
Of that they have in there.
Yeah. I've only been able to find 6 so far, and I've got 1,500 matches on 23andMe, so I'm assuming that there's another 9 of them in there if these stats are correct.
Yeah, see, yours says V is frequent. Mine says H. Mine doesn't say that. Well,
yours is rare.
My H2A2 is relatively common.
So what kind of gravy was it that you got on your shirt?
KFC bowl. Have you had the bowl?
The what?
The KFC? Kentucky Fried Chicken famous bowl.
No.
It's a layer of fake potatoes, mashed potatoes that they use from the box, the watery mashed potatoes that we all know and love, and the salty ass gravy. No. And then they put some popcorn chicken chunks, white meat, and some corn. I don't put cheese because I don't eat cheese, but it was actually quite good. A little salty with the gravy, but all in all, not bad for KFC. There we go. That's what I had. Is that in my Hapalo group?
I think that gravy is part of it.
It's all over me.
Gravy's in your DNA and on your shirt.
And on my shirt. Yes. Let's not get into that. It's not a good day. It's not a good day for DNA.
No.
Or gravy.
Okay. So, if that's for women, men and women can both take the mtDNA test, but only men can take the Y-DNA test because
a Y-DNA test can only be taken by people who are born male because Y chromosomes are passed from father to son unchanged.
Practically unchanged.
Meaning you can trace your entire family male line from beginning of time. This is also a test that can be taken at Family Tree DNA or also included in the basic 23andMe DNA test. So what we're saying here is that you're telling me that you can trace the male line from the beginning of time, but not your female line.
Well, you can. Women can't do the male line, but women can do the female line.
Yeah,
and men can do the female line too, but they are not part of it.
Right. So it just comes up empty. So
no, they have it. They have it too. I match with a male V. He has MT DNA that's a V. This one cousin. That's from his mother, and then because they will have 2 markers where we look in ours and we only have the one in that test. And then everybody's wondering, well, what the heck is a haplogroup? After all of this, I know you were writing in. I got your postcard.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we're going to answer Gina's question. We're going to answer Gina's question. This is according to the International Society of Genetic Genealogy. A haplogroup is a genetic population group of people who share a common ancestor on the patriline or the matriline. And top-level haplogroups are assigned letters of the alphabet, like we've been saying what we are. You know, I'm a V, mtDNA. And deeper refinements consist of additional number and letter combinations, like yours was. Because you've got, an extension.
I've got gravy.
Yeah. My maternal great-grandmother was a member of the V haplogroup. See, using it in a sentence.
So it's a genetic population group of people who share a common ancestor.
Yeah.
So when we see that we're like related to Julia Roberts and Walt Disney, then one of us has got the same haplogroup, maybe because we have a common ancestor.
No,
okay.
No, because you're related to Julia Roberts. Like, what cousinhood is it? 8th, 9th, 10th?
8th or 10th, I think it is.
Yeah, you don't have the same maternal line or the same paternal line as her.
We just have a common genetic ancestor.
Supposedly.
Somewhere. Yeah.
Supposedly.
Supposedly. I know. After all, I'm just a girl sitting in front of a computer.
I'm gonna cry.
Scared to be my cousin.
It's gotta be a cousin.
Scared to be my cousin. And Walt Disney.
And who was your
Disneyland?
And who was your match that they said? They said that Benjamin Franklin was a V common ancestor 10,000 years ago. V was our common ancestor. Me and Ben Franklin have the same common ancestor.
Yo, Ben.
10,000 years ago. So what's yours? You have it on yours?
Let me see.
Oh, God.
It could be Julia Roberts.
It could be.
Oh, Luke, the evangelist.
That's right.
Ours. Yeah, Luke.
Yeah.
And it's so, just a side note to you, to me, this picture of Luke is stained glass, right? And it's from the Cologne Cathedral in Germany, where I was. And I have a picture of it at home that I took.
You know what? It's so funny because Ben Franklin and me, right? Yeah. I have keys. And he put one at the end of a kite street.
Oh, that explains so much.
Totally related.
Did you get struck by lightning? Is that how this all happened?
No, but I've had lightning struck like right outside of my truck when I was driving in Florida during typical afternoon weather. Yeah, me and Ben.
Well, I'm going to go watch
Yanking the
Notting
Franklin.
Hill. Yanking the Franklin. It's a Benjamin.
Bring on the Benjamins.
Bring on the Benjamins. He needs some.
So, but it was really interesting that we got the 23andMe haplogroup designation. That was like something I didn't expect. I mentioned that before. Yeah,
you were really surprised and happy and excited about it.
Well, yeah, because now I don't really have to do the other test if I don't want to. But what we did take was the say this.
Autosomal.
It's like
no. Automall.
Oh God. See, this is why. This is why, God.
Call Carol and see if she can jump on.
God, please let us pronounce this properly.
Autosomal?
Yeah. Okay, autosomal.
It's not a sex chromosome.
No. Autosomal DNA testing is what we were setting out to do when we got our ancestry DNA test and
here we go.
My heritage.
Autosomal.
She ain't right. She ain't right in the head. You don't listen to her. Who is that? Siri?
Yeah.
Autosomal.
No.
Google. Autosomal. See how it's pronounced. Autosomal.
All right. Potato.
Autosomal.
Autosomal. According to Ancestry.com, autosomal DNA testing looks at the DNA in all of your chromosomes except for your sex chromosomes, and then looks for large areas of shared DNA between you and other people in a DNA database to find close relatives.
Looks at the DNA in all of your chromosomes except for your sex chromosome, then looks for large areas of shared DNA between you and other people.
That's another interesting thing about the 23andMe one, is that it does show the X. If I was a dude, it would have X and Y, because I've had some matches on the X, which I think they say that if you have a match on the X, that you share generally a maternal great-grandmother or a paternal great-grandmother or older.
So is this the common DNAs? If they're searching for the areas of shared DNA, is this like the common way and not the sex chromosomes?
Yeah, this is the normal test that you would take.
The normal test. Okay,
and
so the ancestry test.
The ancestry and the MyHeritage for sure, but the 23andMe one's kind of interesting because they give you a little extra stuff, you know? Like the haplogroups and...
Well, take them all. That's what we say.
Well, that's what we do.
Yeah.
Got a test? We'll take it.
That's, oh, well, right. Hold your horses there.
Well, as long as there isn't any, like, writing involved.
Yeah.
Fractions.
Okay, my favorite word is coming up. The centimorgans. Centimorgan. A centimorgan is a unit of genetic measurement abbreviated as CM. I share 3,700 centimorgans of DNA with my mother and 3,700 centimorgans of DNA with my father. And that is true. Half and half.
Yeah, and you know what? It's not a perfect number sometimes. They don't always show up as 3,700 even. Does yours?
I think it did. And I think it was 50-50. Let's see.
Yeah, you might be, you know, like rounded up or...
Well,
maybe...
I am rounded. We're trying to fix that. Well,
that's why you put a little bit of the gravy on your shirt. It cuts calories.
Yeah, save it for later. That took forever. So, okay. So my dad, paternal side, 50% shared DNA. So it's 3,463 chromosomes across 29 segments.
Yeah, it's short just by a little bit.
My mother's is 3,455. So it's just like a pinch more on my dad's side.
A lot more.
Well, he's 463, she's 455. So not that much more. Not 8 more.
Yeah, but it's supposed to be 3,700.
Oh.
I don't think that's like always going to be that way for everybody.
How can it be? Now my aunt, which is my mom's sister, they're twins, Marilyn and Marlene. This is where I find it is weird. My auntie Marilyn, we share 2,045 chromosomes. And then my auntie Marlene, we share 1,792. The younger of the twins. And then my first cousin, we share 803.
Yeah. I don't have anybody that high on my...
Oh, really?
I don't even have any... everything's under 400.
And then my second cousins, which I think are they're my mom's cousin's kids. They're 348 in there, in the 300s. That's
really high in comparison to my second cousins.
And then I have third cousins in the 120s. In the 110s and the 106s. Then third cousins in the 98s.
Yeah, that's about right for third cousins.
Don't know what it means, but they're my family.
Well, that's when you want to really get into a triangulation. A triangulation is when 3 or more people share the same DNA segment. If you were to go to a chromosome browser, you would be able to pull in you and several other people you might think are a match to you and see if you have a segment of DNA that triangulates, meaning that it's matched like right in the
Would
same
that be a twin
spot.
thing too? Or not necessarily a twinny thing?
Not necessarily, but I would guess that they would have that. I mean, sisters most likely would. I have nobody to test with. So it would be the closest relative to me would be a first cousin that I could test with. And yeah, and they have that browser on several different platforms that you can do that with. And for example, my first cousin Laura, as well as a third cousin in Norway, and I share a DNA triangulation on our 4th chromosome. And I was able to date it back to at least my second great grandmother. Another word that comes up a lot in research is pedigree, which simply means lineage.
So, yeah.
But, yeah.
We have an impressive pedigree.
Well,
or like a horse has an impressive pedigree, or a dog has an impressive pedigree.
Yeah. I mean, you would want to say that too if you had royalty in your pedigree, which
I do.
Yeah. Right? Going back to before Jesus.
Yes. And also, too, on that Find a Relative, Lady Diana, or Princess Di, I should say, is on there too. So there
But it doesn't show up in that particular run that you have on your family tree. You'd have to take the scenic route and plot it out to find her.
You think it could be done?
It can be done. I did this with Sean Astin because they had that thing, click here and to see if you're related to Sean Astin. So I did, and it's like, oh, well, here's the people that are your shared relatives, your shared ancestors, but they didn't tell us the steps up or the steps, for either of us. Just the parents.
Yeah. And
then the shared ancestors. So I did it, and it took me 2 days because I had no idea which direction to go into. It's like, so I did his first and found his way, and then I backed up into my tree because I did have a lot of my tree done, but I didn't know which way to turn, so I needed to know how we got there. It's interesting.
So I heard this word before, and you can explain it, but it's 2 words, pedigree collapse. And I was like, well, does that mean is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Pedigree collapse is when you are related to someone in more than one direction.
Okay.
Since my mother and her sister married my father and his brother, I have double first cousins, which created a pedigree collapse in our family tree because my aunt is my aunt plus she's my uncle's wife. And my uncle is my uncle plus he's my aunt's husband. So instead of having new blood in there, we just kept it in the family, but not really, because it's not like you're doing the next thing, which is endogamy.
Well, yeah. So that's just like the pedigree collapses like by marriage, if you want to say, right? Well,
yeah, like the other example is that my grandmother's sister married my grandfather's uncle. Instead of marrying somebody else and bringing in fresh blood from DNA from like another family, she married into the same family that her sister did. So it collapses, it takes away a leg of your tree going into another family, expanding into another family. You're just staying in the same family area. So, but endogamy is another thing. And a lot of people are forced to do this, stay within their religion or culture, tight-knit groups, Ashkenazi Jewish, royalty, people living in small villages. They ended up marrying into the same groups of people for generations. And, that's when some things went wrong. Like you would have a lot of physical disorders, DNA-related physical disorders, because it just was too much of the same genes. They had to expand the gene pool. Yeah, that could be problematic. And it's good now because anybody can take a DNA test and say, oh, well, we're fifth cousins. I guess that doesn't matter too much. If you find out you're first cousins, then where the heck have you been? You don't know your own family.
Well, you know, my mom, and who was she talking to? Another older relative. And they were discussing that too. It's like nowadays they don't make you take a blood test before you get married and stuff. I was like, oh yeah, they used to make you do that back in the day.
What were they testing for, though?
To see if you were like first cousins.
Is that really what they were doing?
Yeah.
I thought it was to check for diseases or for some kind of genetic thing. But maybe it is a genetic thing if you're marrying your second cousin and don't realize it.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. There was so much of that going on. I wonder if people back in the day didn't know whether or not there was a world outside of where they were living. Kind of like the Truman Show, you know?
Probably.
Like, how are you going to know? Somebody would have had to have explored it, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so these are some things that come up when you're researching and you may experience while you're researching. More than likely, you'll see some pedigree collapse and some endogamy. Don't freak out. It has happened to everyone somewhere. Just don't let it happen now in the present. So, no pedigree collapse.
Don't be afraid to, write down words and look them up, because you know what? There's no stupid questions in genealogy at all.
No, is like, it's like science suddenly is in your life. You may not have been interested your entire life in science, and here you are.
And one thing, like what we were just talking about, that pedigree collapse and stuff, that could lead to open a door, a lot of doors, and say, oh, I get it now. This is how. So stick with it, people.
Yeah, I'm still working on that. I'm still working on this with multiple collapses. Back in there 100 and something years ago. It's so hard to trace it back, and it's mixed in with the patronymic last names, so yeah,
there you go.
It's fun.
It is fun. I mean, that's what you got to do. Well, that's it for today. We hope we didn't confuse you more, but we know we didn't. So if you need any information on today's show, or you have a really, really interesting genealogy story to tell, we want to hear it. And you might be able to be a guest on here with us and share your experiences and stuff. We'd love to hear from you. So go over to our website at twiceremoved.net and let us know. And thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, Linda.
Oh, thank you, Gina.
Bye.
Bye.
The Twice Removed podcast is produced by Linda Anderson and Gina Glass. All opinions expressed are of our own and of our guests. For more information and upcoming guests, please visit our website, twiceremoved.net.